the good news for the Broncos, they've suffered through that awkwardness with Russell Wilson. They admitted their mistake. They doubled down not. They moved on, and they benched him late last year, and that was a big to-do. And it worked out for Russell Wilson. It just wasn't a fit in Denver. It wasn't a fit with Nathaniel Hackett. It wasn't a fit with Sean Payton, and they moved on. That's what the Browns need to do. But for the Broncos, problem solved. Bo Nix gets his 8th win last night. He has doubled the prior franchise record for rookie quarterback wins that was held by John Elway and Drew Lock with 4. He's got 8 now. They're 8-5. The bad news for the NFL with the Broncos winning last night, it is pretty clear who the 7 playoff teams are in the AFC. The seeding is still TBD, but there's not going to be, by all appearances, a mad dash to the finish line for that 7th seed or the 6th seed. Unless the Colts or the Dolphins get really hot and the Ravens or the Broncos fall off a cliff, you're looking at the 7. When you're down to 3 teams in the hunt, you know that the 7 spots are getting pretty much solidified, and the Broncos are going to have one of them. And, hey, Devin, the Broncos are going to be a problem because what they do, once they get Riley Moss back, once they shore up the back end, defense is going to travel. That 3-headed rotation running back by committee, that's going to travel. And Bo Nix, he played in Oregon. He's been in some elements. He's going to be able, if they got to go on the road to Pittsburgh or here or wherever, they're going to be fine if they have to play away, which they will have to play away from Denver in the postseason.
And I agree with you. And obviously, as a defensive back, former defensive back, when I look at this defense, you fall in love because they trade Browning, and you're like, oh man, like I thought he was a young, good player for them outside line. And then you watch Bonito and Cooper coming off the edge, and then Tillman and Ellis, 2 rookies that they found coming off the edge. And you see Zach Allen in the middle, and you see Franklin Myers. Like they have all these different guys rushing the passer and getting after it. They're an aggressive defense. And when they have their 3 corners in there, and Troy Aikman said it a bunch on the broadcast that, McMillan had been struggling all year. And when you play a lot of man-to-man, every game's not going to go well. He didn't play great against the Raiders. But overall, those 3 guys that have played corner for this team, they've played at a pretty high level. When you got to go out there and play a guy man-to-man every single week, you're going to give up some catches sometimes. But, they've been very competitive. Obviously, Surtain is who he is. But I agree with you 100%. I think this team is built to go win. They're a team that when you get into playoffs, I think for the teams that are in the AFC, you're confident. You're like, hey, we're better than this team. But I think the coaching staff sits there and says, if we're not on it the way we need to be on it and we play against this Denver Broncos team, we could be in trouble. They're one of those teams that it's scary to play in the playoffs because what you just said, the defense is so aggressive that the game can change fast. They can get a turnover, a strip sack, an interception, and then you can kick a field goal, score, and next thing you know, you're playing the Denver Broncos from behind. And certain teams, when they get to play the game, the style that they want, I think about the Broncos, they can play from ahead and they can rotate those 3 backs. And you have Estime coming in there, and you have Williams coming in there, bigger, stronger guys, and then McLaughlin comes in there and he's a speed. Like they can control the game exactly the way they want, and you could be in trouble. So definitely have a playoff style team that could be a dangerous out for anybody playing them in the playoffs.
McLaughlin had 14 carries, 84 yards last night, an average of 6.0. And Javonte Williams, it wasn't quite the Jerome Bettis week 1 of 2004, 5 carries for 1 yard and 3 touchdowns. But he had 4 carries for 1 yard and 1 touchdown. So that was part of the night. They need that. They need that presence in the running game, and they need to have balance. And Sean Payton said it before the game, I believe, or during the in-game interview, that a quarterback's best friend is a running game. Because if that running game is working, it softens up the defense. You can do play action. They're on their heels. I mean, to me, that's the one thing I've picked up from 50 years of watching football closely. If the defense is on its heels, the offense is in a much better position. Where you're not predictable. They have no idea what's coming. They feel like nothing's working. And you're constantly in that position of what's next? what's next. Hey, we better go. Let's run over here, and then they go over here. Let's do this, and then they do this. And they set you up, and they need that. If the Broncos are going to be successful in the postseason, they need that running game, they need that balance, and they need that defense. And they've got all three. And that's why, and I hate to say this because, watch, the Texans are going to win the Super Bowl because I've been saying this for weeks now. The Texans are the only team to me that looks like they're not going to be ready to compete with the best teams in the AFC. But the rest of the teams that we saw in that graphic, the other 6, I think any of them can beat any of the others.
Yeah, and I think what we've seen from the Texans over the last month, that does seem true. And I think the thing about the Texans is they're just a few kind of fixes in what they do away from being a team that can be just as dangerous as we thought coming in, because you got Nico Collins back and he's healthy again. But I think because of the way their offense has been playing, and specifically up front of CJ Stroud, the pressure he's been taking, I think it's affected him. And there's throws and last week against Jacksonville, steps up in the pocket, looks like he has Tank Dell. If he could get the ball out there enough, it's going to be a touchdown. And, I think people, are calling a little bit of a sophomore slump. But the truth of the matter is the Texans are playing better competition. You went from a team that was lower in your division, and that sets your schedule last year. That's what happened. Then you win your division. Now you're playing all the division leaders. You can't afford to be a little off. And I think that's what's happening. I think CJ Stroud has now been impacted by what's been happening in front of him. He's been hit so many times this season that now he's sitting in the pocket of, all right, last year I was able to hold the ball at this length. Now I got to get rid of the ball. Okay, but this play calls for me to hold the ball and I'm going to have a guy open, but now I hold it and I'm kind of waiting for me to get hit. And a good amount of times I do get hit, but then when I don't get hit, I'm not as comfortable and confident in the pocket that I should be. And I think that's what we've seen a little bit from CJ Stroud, and their defense has been in and out with injury. So if they can get healthy down this back end, and I think I truly believe this, the key to the end of the regular season is playing good football and finding ways to win. Going into the playoffs like that, I don't care if it's 2 games, 3 games, if you can end the season exactly the way you want. Your head coach comes in there and says, hey, we need to do these things. These are playoff type of games for us. We need to do those. And you can do it. It creates an energy, a level of confidence that I think if you can do that, you can go in and have a full slate of confidence that the team you thought you could be, that you are that now. And now it's time to go do it in the playoffs, because the truth of the matter is, we used to call it, if you got the bye week, we would call it 3 games of glory. And you think about that, if you've played a whole season of 17 games, if we tell you, hey, 4 games or 3 games and you're in the Super Bowl, 4 games, you're Super Bowl champs, I think teams can believe in that. So whatever these 14 teams are, I think that needs to be your goal to end this season. Play your best ball going in, and then anything can happen.
3 straight win for the Broncos going into their regularly scheduled bye week. They have the Colts coming out of it. That's one of the teams trying to chase the Broncos. That could be the dagger. They come out of their bye, they beat the Colts, and they're, as a practical matter, clinched. They also have Chargers on a Thursday night. That should be a fun one to watch. Bengals and Chiefs to wrap the season. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.